In this video, we will do a recap of the 2001 American war film Behind Enemy Lines. The aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson that is stationed in the Adriatic Sea, along with the rest of the NATO forces in Bosnia, are preparing to withdraw, as the war in Bosnia has ended. Flight Navigator Lieutenant Chris Burnett is planning an early retirement from the U.S. Navy because he is bored of the unexciting routine flights. Burnett's commanding officer, Admiral Leslie Reigert, calls for him because he receives his letter wanting to leave the Navy. Reigert remembers the time when he first came on board with tons of potential. Burnett said that the routine wears him out. Reigert points out that the routine, the system checks, the drills, the maintaining of discipline is what he does to prepare for war. Burnett argues with the Admiral that they are not at war. Reigert informed him that they are at war every time he steps on that boat. Burnett continues to argue, saying that they only pretend they are at war but not fighting, they're watching. Reigert said that he should be glad he's not in a fight. The Admiral ordered him to serve his country for the remaining 2 weeks. He'll keep his letter in his pocket, and at the end of 2 weeks, he'll be on his way. Reigert assigns Burnett and his partner pilot Lieutenant Jeremy Stackhouse to a reconnaissance mission over to Bosnia. The routine is going smoothly until they spot an unusual activity in the demilitarized zone. They both rely on the scope. To confirm, Burnett urges Stackhouse to fly their FA-18F Super Hornet off course to get a closer look at the target. Stackhouse stops him but agrees when Burnett insists, and it's also an opportunity for them to test their new digital camera, and so, they take photos of the area. The local Bosnian Serb paramilitary commander, General Miroslav Lokar, is conducting a secret genocidal campaign against the Muslim population. The two are unaware that they are capturing Serb volunteer guard soldiers burying massacred Bosniak civilians in mass graves. The Serbs in the area spot the jet and immediately report them to Lokar. Their commander was surprised about the report. He doesn't believe it's a NATO's jet because he heard from the news that NATO will leave the region. Not wanting the mass graves to be discovered, he calls his personal assassin, Sasha Ivanich, and orders the jet be shot down. First missile is fired. They attempt to outmaneuver Lokar's surface-to-air missiles by putting out decoy flares but fail.
Where is he?
Another missile is fired.
We need a bigger heat decoy.
They drop the fuel tanks to create a bigger heat decoy, and it's a fireball that the two missiles are tracking for.
Both tracking for the fireball.
One is down, and they go up to look for the second one but can't see.
It's over. Hold
It came into sight. Stackhouse decided for a head-on pass maneuver to distract the missile's targeting system, but it clipped part of the tail and they lost control. The second missile hits the jet and cuts the plane in half. The two are forced to eject. Reigert is in the middle of their Christmas party when he receives a report that they lost the FA-18F. He got up and checked for any beacon activity and the last contact they received from the two. He orders to contact Admiral Piquet, the commander of NATO naval forces, and alert NATO's chain of command. The two land in the Serb-held territory along the Bosnia-Serbia border. Stackhouse is badly hurt and can't walk. Burnett leaves and goes to the higher ground so he can contact Reigert for help. Lokar arrives at the place where the jet crashed. He talks to the Serb President Petrovic and reminded him of his promise that they would never see any more flyovers. They disregarded the accord, so he shot the jet down. He orders his deputy, Serb Colonel Viktor Bazda, to bring every part of the plane to Gonik and no one goes near it. Sasha Ivanich arrives and leaves with Lokar to show him where the pilot lands. Lokar and his men find the injured Stackhouse, and interrogate him about the recon mission and the photographs. Stackhouse doesn't speak until Lokar asks if he is alone and he confirms. Lokar talks to Ivanich and leaves with his men. As the Serbs move on, Ivanich executed Stackhouse. Burnett, who was watching from the woods, swiftly screamed and backed away. Ivanich turns when he hears Burnett scream and alerts Lokar that there is another one. Lokar and his men started firing on the hills. They miss, until they lose him. Lokar wants Burnett dead, so he sends Bazda and Ivanich to find him. On high ground, Burnett contacts Reigert to inform him of what happened to their plane and to Stackhouse. Reigert provides Burnett an extraction point and checks that his crew is ready to saddle up. He needs a green light from his superior, so he orders to contact Piquet. Burnett goes down and immediately rushes to reach the extraction point while the Serbs were on the move to find him. Reigert's team are preparing to leave when Piquet arrives. He asks Reigert what's happening and he is informed that FA-18 is down in Bosnia and a pilot is suspected dead. Piquet asked him who authorized the search and rescue and Reigert said he was. Piquet tells Reigert to call it off and stand down because he already spoke to Bosnian military commanders and that the shoot-down of Burnett's jet was perpetrated by the renegades trying to disrupt the peace process. Bosnian also claims that the aircraft was way off mission. Piquet warns him that if they try to rescue Burnett in the no-fly zone, the whole treaty will collapse. The Serb troops continue to look for Burnett, who is now at the coastline and taking a break. Ivanich fires at Burnett but misses. Burnett escapes from Ivanich and reaches the rally point. He radios control and Reigert informs him that current location is undoable for pickup. Reigert tells him that he must move to a location outside of the demilitarized zone in order to be rescued. He sets another rendezvous point which is miles outside the no-fly zone. He insists that he's good to go and doesn't understand why it's not doable. Reigert scolded him, then advised to use his training, his head, evade and survive. And they will bring him home. Burnett is still talking to Reigert when he spots Bazda's patrol that's looking for him. Burnett runs. He falls into the mass grave that he and Stackhouse had photographed and hides under a dead body. The Serb patrol reaches the grave. They inspect the grave for Burnett. Can't find him, so they leave. Burnett, shocked by what he sees, continues to run.
We lost the signal, sir.
The control lost the signal, but the SCIF, or the Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility, is tracking Burnett's signal through satellite, so Reigert goes to SCIF and they see Burnett on the run and is being chased. Reigert orders his men to provide him intel on the situation, who is chasing Burnett and why. Reigert decides to leak the news of the downed jet to Sky News to ensure Burnett's rescue. The news confirms that aircraft F-18 Super Hornet has been shut down over Bosnia and only the navigator survived. The Serbs, who control most of southern Bosnia, blame the alleged insurgents and that they are doing everything to locate the crew. It is also not clear what impact this will have on NATO's withdrawal. Things are getting complicated for Lokar when he sees the news and receives a report from Bazda that Burnett is still alive. One of his men informs him that the camera's storage unit has no film. It is stored digitally in another part of the plane, but the hard drive was already destroyed. Lokar orders his man to find it. Piquet confronts Reigert when the news came out and asked him if that is how he would repay him after he commended his work to his superiors and gave him all the information he needed. Reigert appreciates all that, but their pilot is behind enemy lines. The two argue about saving Burnett and the damage the news may cause to the peace process. Reigert felt frustrated because Piquet opposed his actions for the sake of maintaining the peace treaty in the Balkan regions. Still on the run to the new extraction zone, Burnett needs to pass through an abandoned factory that is trapped with tripwire anti-personnel landmines. The Serb patrol spots Burnett and tries to pursue him. One of the militants steps on a tripwire that kills the entire patrol, setting off a chain reaction of exploding mines. Burnett runs as fast as he can, not knowing that Ivanich is following his tracks. Burnett stops and informs Reigert that he's on course with the last instruction. Reigert gives him another instruction to reach the rendezvous point. Helicopters and the team are now getting ready for extraction. Piquet shows up and orders Reigert's team to stand down from the rescue operation, and have his team conduct the pickup. In the forest, while Burnett is resting, he has a flashback of Stackhouse's murder. He wakes up and runs again. Burnett stops the passing pickup truck with Bosniak guerrillas. They offer Burnett a ride, and head for the town of Hatch. Ivanich, still tracking Burnett, learns that Burnett is heading Hatch. He calls someone to provide information that Burnett is running toward them. A helicopter is seen in the skies. It is the French NATO Special Forces rescue team, which is 22 minutes away for the pickup. The truck reaches the town of Hatch, which turns out to be a war zone. After the battle, the Serbs take over the town under Lokar's order. The Serbian forces believe they have found Burnett's body following a firefight. They present to Lokar what they believe is the body of Burnett. But Ivanich realizes that it's not Burnett because the man has the same tattoo as him. He believes that Burnett switched uniforms. And he is right. The helicopter is now 5 minutes away from the rendezvous point and Burnett rushes to reach the RP. He met the guy in the truck, which he calls Ice Cube because he is a fan of. At the control center, Reigert is monitoring the movement of the helicopter, which is now very close to Burnett, when he receives the bad news from Piquet that Burnett is dead. The Serbs paraded the corpse wearing Burnett's uniform. It is being broadcast on the news, which confirms what he heard from Piquet. The Serbs claim that Burnett was shot by Bosniak forces to prevent the American rescue team from retrieving Burnett. Their trick works, because when Burnett and Ice Cube arrive at the next RP, they see the helicopter turn away. Disappointed, Burnett notices a statue. He remembers then that the ejection seat landed near a statue of an angel. Burnett wants to return to the site and find it, in order to prove to Reigert that he is still alive. He tells Ice Cube that he's going to retrieve the photographs of the grave that they took, so that Stackhouse didn't die for no reason. Burnett orders Ice Cube not to follow him. Burnett reaches the location of his ejection seat. Aware that Burnett is still alive, Lokar sends both Bazda and Ivanich to kill him. Burnett reactivates the rescue beacon and the carrier notices his signal. Reigert was informed that the beacon was on for 7 minutes and someone should be familiar with the system to reactivate the beacon. Reigert believes it's Burnett, so he prepares a task force to rescue Burnett even if it risks being relieved of command. On their way to Burnett's location, Bazda steps on a landmine. He asks Ivanich for help but he ignores him. Burnett hears the explosion and is alerted that someone is coming. Burnett's signal also alerts the Serbs to his location and is reported to Lokar. Ivanich finds the ejection seat and takes a position. He thinks he sees Burnett's hand on the ejection seat, so he walks toward it. Ivanich hears the approaching helicopters as he gets to the ejection seat. He backs off and looks for a better spot, then slowly advances until he reaches the seat only to find out that he was tricked. Burnett appears from behind and opens fire on Ivanich several times but fails to kill him. Ivanich fires back but only grazes Burnett's shoulder. They fight until Burnett stabs him with a spike of a flare, killing him. Lokar arrives with armored vehicles and infantry, and starts to fire at Burnett. Burnett runs to a nearby statue when the rescue helicopters arrive and fire on the Serbs. The team wonders why Burnett is not moving. Burnett turns and runs back to the ejection seat to retrieve the hard drive that contains the photos of the mass graves. Lokar tries to shoot Burnett, but Burnett runs back to the helicopter while the rescue team covers for him. Burnett is successfully rescued, much to the dismay of Lokar as his crime is now being exposed. After the rescue, he gives the photographic evidence to Reigert, explaining it as the reason why Stackhouse was killed. Burnett, who earlier wanted to resign from active duty, asks Reigert for his resignation letter back and decides to remain in the Navy. The rescue team withdraws back to the aircraft carrier. The photographs of the mass grave that Burnett retrieve is the evidence that put Lokar on trial, and conviction for war crimes including genocide. Reigert lost command and was given an administrative job in Washington. Thank you for watching Movie Recap. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more videos like this.